So when you think of Pokemon, what do you think of? Do you think of Pikachu? Do you think of Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise? Maybe even like, I don't know, like a Pidgeot or maybe a Sceptile. Maybe you're a Gen 3 kid like I am, you know. Infernape maybe. I don't know. But you certainly don't think of Dugong. You don't think of these Pokemon that are underutilized, underappreciated. And let me tell you something. Game Freak doesn't think of them either. Generation 8 has been out for about a year now. And there's, I think, like 880 maybe, almost 900 Pokemon, I think. And, you know, in that time, in the 24 years since Pokemon's inception, so 1996 to 2020 right now, there's something that's happened. This is something that's happened, it's called power creep. So power creep defined is the situation where updates to a game introduced more powerful units or abilities, leaving the older ones underpowered. Now it's clear to me and a lot of other people that power creep has plagued the Pokemon franchise for years. And a lot of our old favorites have fallen by the wayside for new and more powerful Pokemon. This isn't always the case, however, since not every Pokemon introduced in the first generation is outclassed by future ones. You know, you look at something like Nidoking, you know, poison ground type, been here since generation 1. But it's been able to hold its place as a pretty decent Pokemon. And this is of course due to getting a 10-point power boost in Gen 6. This is due to the ability Sheer Force that was introduced to it. And this was also due to the Fairy type being introduced. But these aren't really things that, you know, these aren't drastic enough to really change the Pokemon. Now, Nidoking is lucky because Nidoking gets to stay, you know, at the top of the food chain, or relatively close to the top. But some other Pokemon who may or may not have had, you know, a small niche in red, blue, and yellow, or gold and silver, by the time Sword and Shield rolled around, they are completely useless. Some Pokemon that I can think of off the top of my head that are just like that are, you know, like Delibird, or Dugong, or Fearow, or Hypno. You know, a whole bunch of Pokemon that you don't even think about. You think about competitive Pokemon, you don't think about any of those Pokemon. So, Game Freak has dabbled in improving some of the older creations. I mentioned that, you know, Nidoking has gotten 10 points to its stats, you know, that's great. But oftentimes, it's not enough to really make the difference, make or break the Pokemon. So if Game Freak and the Pokemon Company aren't doing enough to mitigate this power creep, then what do we as players do? Well, nothing, since, well, that's never going to change. Instead, we can imagine the kinds of improvements they might make to these older Pokemon. And that's where I come in. Now, the purpose of this video isn't to make definitive statements of what needs to be done to improve underwhelming Pokemon. There's no such thing as a definitive answer to a very, very complicated problem. There's 900 Pokemon. There's 6 kinds of base stats. There's so many little variables in a Pokemon's, like, conception that, you know, changing 10 of them might not affect anything. But we're going to try. So, Project Pocket Monster. In this video, I'm going to tackle a small segment of the Generation 1 Pokemon and see what I can do to tweak them to, you know, make them probably a little bit better. Now, this includes stuff like their base stats, their abilities, their move pools, even some Pokemon I want to change their typing, you know, stuff to make them not only a little bit better, but more unique, you know, because there's a billion standard normal types. There's a billion water types, you know, and a lot of the time, Pokemon, and we'll get to Raticate. Raticate is outclassed by a whole bunch of normal types that have been introduced generation to generation to generation, and there has to be something to make it unique. Now, it's important to note that while balancing a game, it doesn't mean every Pokemon needs to have the same base stat total, a wider move pool, a new ability, etc. It's a case-by-case basis for sure. So we're going to be going through each individual Pokemon and seeing what can be done to potentially make it a little more better, a little more better, a little bit better, and a little more unique. So as a preface, this rebalancing doesn't consider parts of Pokemon that I consider cyclical, in the sense that, you know, Mega Evolution was here Generation 6 and 7, but it was sort of dropped for Sword and Shield. Now, Z-moves were just here for Generation 7. But they were dropped in Sword and Shield. Now there's a whole can of worms there, I'm not even going to touch it, with Dex Hit and Dex Cuts and whatnot. And it's not also going to include the current meta, so it's not going to include or keep in mind Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. So this is just base Pokemon, stuff that cannot be trifled with. I mean, they obviously cut a whole bunch of Pokemon, but, you know, they can take away Megas, they can take away Z-moves, they can take away Gigantamaxing, but at the very center, they're just the Pokemon, the monsters. Now, when we talk about balancing, we have to keep in mind that not every Pokemon is going to be overused. Because even if we increase Pokemon's stats, if we increase their abilities, or make them better, or whatever, there's still going to be 800 Pokemon. There's still Pokemon that are going to be selected over others, no matter what we do. It's impossible. There are, let's see, there's OU, well, there's Anything Goes, there's Ubers, there's OU, there's UU, there's RU, there's NU, there's PU, and there's ZU. And ZU isn't really an official tier, but there's so many tiers, and that's because of the sheer quantity of Pokemon. All of these tiers, this big spectrum, if you will, it's not to shrink it down. Well, it is sort of to shrink it down. That is sort of the goal. We do want to be able to have Pokemon that previously were untiered have some sort of niche in upper tiers, or some sort of thing about them that's unique that makes them more viable over on your team or over some of their competition. Equalizing stat totals, that's not balance as well. Giving every single Pokemon 500 points isn't what I consider balance. A 500 base stat total, that's not balance. A Fire Steel type with Levitate with 500 base stats, and it's just going to be better than a Bug Flying type with Shield Dust with 500 base stats. Everything else considered. That's just because of how the type chart works, that's how moves work, that's just how it is, you know? And keep in mind, everyone, that this is all for fun. This is all to propagate discussion. Now, I guess we're just going to start at the very beginning. You see him on the screen. It is my man Venusaur. And I am not going to touch Venusaur. Right off the bat, I'm just going to say it. Now, Venusaur is already a pretty solid Pokemon. It's always had a niche in OU. It's always been a very, very good Sun Sweeper. I think a Chlorophyll Sweeper is the first one that comes to mind is Venusaur. It is faster than, say, Victory Bell. I believe it's faster than Shiftry as well. A lot of Pokemon get Chlorophyll, but Venusaur benefits more from it because of its faster speed, higher stats, and frankly, better typing. Grass Poison's pretty good. And I think that in itself makes Venusaur unique enough that we don't need to change it. It gets Earth Power, it gets Weather Ball. Does it get Weather Ball? It might get Weather Ball. Ooh, yeah, no, Venusaur is totally fine. So I'm not going to touch Venusaur at all. Most of the starters are pretty okay. I shouldn't say that. Most of the Gen 1 starters are okay. In fact, all the Gen 1 starters are okay. So I'm just going to skip right on over to Charizard now. Charizard is an interesting case because it hasn't really been very good. I mean, it's been good, but as soon as Stealth Rock was introduced, obviously, it's a Fire Flying type. It is 4 times weak to Stealth Rock. Blaze and Solar Power aren't super good. Its Megas, of course, are super, super good. Both of them are very good, but that's not what we're talking about. With the introduction of Heavy Duty Boots, I think that Charizard's able to utilize a lot more of its tools better, and being the fact that it's Charizard and it's, Game Freak's poster child besides Pikachu, it has, a really, really good move pool, a lot of things it can do. I think that Charizard's totally fine as is. Again, we don't need to make every Pokemon broken to make them necessarily balanced. This Pokemon has a niche. It has a thing unique about it. It's a Fire Flying type with a higher speed tier than Moltres, than Oricorio. That kind of thing. So I think Charizard's totally fine as is. And that brings us to Blastoise. And Blastoise is also one Pokemon that I don't think needs to be touched a crazy amount. I think that in Generation 8, having Rapid Spin boost your speed is really, really good. It doesn't have any sort of reliable recovery, but I don't necessarily think it needs to. Of all of the Generation 1 starters, I think that Blastoise probably needs buffs the most, but I'm skeptical to touch it right now because I don't think it's been utilized enough. Generation 8 gave it Shell Smash, and it has Rapid Spin. And I think that makes Blastoise diverse enough as just a solo water type, especially with those stats. I mean, 100 defense, 105 special defense. It's pretty good, I don't think it needs to be touched, really. But you know. So that basically wraps up the Generation 1 starters. I just wanted to tie a nice little like a bow on it, because I think they're all, while they're not like broken, you know what I mean, they're not really good. I think that in the metagame that, you know, we would like to strive for, I think they're fine as is. And that brings us to our first actual changed Pokemon of this video. So that brings us to Butterfree. And, you know, so Butterfree has a base stat total of, I believe, 395. I'm pretty sure it's 395. All the starters are like 530, so it's already like 100 base stats or more less powerful than them. Now, you look at Butterfree's abilities. Compound Eyes and Tinted Lenses are both really, really good abilities. You know, so there's nothing we need to change there necessarily. Sticking out to me, its special attack being 90 is very good. Its special defense is okay, and its speed is okay. I think Butterfree is more of a support Pokemon than anything. It can function as a setup sweeper with Quiver Dance, but it's sort of outclassed in its own right by a bunch of other Quiver Dance speakers, namely like, you know, Frostmoth, Vivillon, Volcarona. Being a Pokemon with under 400 base stat total, even after Game Freak already gave it 10 points into its special attack, is sad. As sub 400 is just, it's worse than some of the middle evolutions. So I think Butterfree needs a substantial stat boost. Nothing like that crazy. We're not going to make it legendary levels, obviously. So I want to bump its special attack up to 100. I want to boost its special defense up to 100. And I want to put its speed up to 95. Now, this brings its stat total to 450, which isn't crazy high. It's actually relatively below average. And it also doesn't part from Butterfree's roots as like an early point Mon. Now, some of the things that I want to be mindful of is keeping Pokemon thematic. You know, we're not going to make the Route 1, you know, bug type ridiculously busted. It's not going to be able to compete with Landorus Therian. It's not going to be able to compete with Toxapex. Although, you know, Sleep Powder and Psychic might be able to do the thing against Toxapex. But Butterfree, it already gets Sleep Powder, it gets Quiver Dance, it gets a number of good moves, Hurricane, Air Slash, Energy Ball, Bug Buzz. So I don't want to adjust its move pool that heavily. Although I am, in fact, I want to give it access to Sludge Bomb. I want to give it access to Moonblast. And as a support type Pokemon, I think that Butterfree would really benefit from Sticky Webs. Sticky Webs is a move that, you know, obviously it sets a hazard. It lowers the opposing team's speed by 1 upon switching, unless they have Levitate or are a flying type or are wearing heavy duty booties. Heavy duty booties are broken, but I sort of like them because hazards are super centralizing. And I think that Sticky Webs will no doubt make Butterfree's usage stat go up, just like totally. And I also think it makes sense because, you know, thematically it's a butterfly. It spins silk into a cocoon and then comes out, whatever, you know. I think it makes sense. I don't think 95 speed is too crazy high. You know, it's able to outspeed more things than it was previously at base 70. I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, at base 70. I mean, that's just 70 base speed is that's pretty average. And I think it'll make it better. Now, as far as its abilities go, I don't like leaving the third slot open. Some Pokemon have 1 ability, some have 2, some have 3. I think every Pokemon should have 3. I think they should all have sort of diverse kits. And as for Butterfree's third ability, or, you know, potential third ability, I want to give it Dry Skin. Now, you're thinking, but why would Butterfree need Dry Skin? Well, it doesn't really need Dry Skin. The Pokédex entries for Butterfree reference the fact that its scales like repel water, and I thought that being able to switch into a water type attack and being able to absorb it would be a very unique niche for a bug flying type. Again, everything we're doing is trying to make them unique without being too broken. And then maybe threaten with a Quiver Dance, threaten with a Sleep Powder. And yeah, so that's our new and improved Butterfree. 100 special attack, 100 special defense, no type change, 95 speed, 450 total with Dry Skin, Sludge Bomb, Moonblast, and Sticky Web. I think that while Butterfree has never been very good, or rather, Butterfree's never really been very bad. Its stats are a little lackluster, and I think that this actually helps Butterfree a lot. So, moving on to my man Beedrill. Now, Beedrill is an interesting case because it's like Butterfree. It's got 395 base stats across the board. I think Beedrill has a perfectly fine Mega Evolution, pretty good, all things considered, and which makes it viable in my eyes, but considering that this whole scenario is prefaced by the fact that Mega Evolution, Z-moves, and Dynamaxing, Gigantamaxing don't exist, I think that we need to buff Beedrill in the meta without Megas. So here's what I do. Now, Beedrill is a parallel of Butterfree, so I'd make sure that Beedrill's base stat total is also 450. There are certain themes that I don't necessarily want to stray from, you know? So I'm going to add 10 points to its attack, 20 points to its defense, and 25 points to its speed, making it faster, hit a bit harder, and potentially tank a hit just a little bit better. A base 60 defense isn't that much better than 40, so I really don't feel bad about it. However, Beedrill's abilities, in general, they're a lot worse than Butterfree's. So I think they warrant a pretty decent change. I want to change Swarm to Skill Link, making its Fury attacks and Pin missiles much better. I mean, obviously, if you're a competitive Beedrill, you're not going to run Fury attack. Or, well, you could run Pin missile, actually. 18 times 5, if it hits every single time. That's base 90. That's pretty good. That's more critical hit chances. It sort of makes it a little more unique. It's the Mega Heracross effect. And I also want to change Sniper to Technician. And also give it access to the Generation 8 move Dual Wing Beat. So if Beedrill has Technician, you know, it's a worker bee, right? It's able to use its, not signature move, but it's able to use Twinneedle, gets boost from that. It can use Bug Bite, the Dual Wing Beat, combined with its base, and I really got to get a little bit better here. Combined with its new base 100 attack is actually pretty solid. Beedrill's still paper, but being able to fire off these boosted low damage moves, or potentially a linked pin missile or fury attack, or something of that nature, I think that just makes Beedrill a little bit better as a bug poison type. It's still not incredible, but now it has sort of a niche. It's almost like a worse, faster Scizor, if not really Scizor. Worse, slower Scyther. A better, slower Scyther. Alright, yeah, moving on. Bug poison. What other bug poison types exist that are... I mean, there's so many. I don't even... Bug poison. Venomoth? Venomoth exists. Generation 2. Ariados? Yep, there's one. Bug poison. Dustox? Yep, okay, they exist. They're real. Next up, on our rebalancing Pokemon, we have Pidgeot. Alright, so Pidgeot's a pretty interesting case since it already has a base stat total of 479, which isn't that bad, and it had its speed buffed already in Generation 6 from 91 to 101. So I don't think it needs really that much help to be viable. Obviously, this is a meta without Megas, so I want to make Pidgeot as a normal flying type. The goal is to make it more unique, and I want to make Pidgeot a special attacker. With that in mind, I'm going to boost Pidgeot by 20 points into its special attack, bringing it up to 90, as well as subtracting those 10 points from its regular attack, bringing its stat total to 499, which isn't exactly crazy. As far as its abilities go, Big Pecs, Kenai, and Tangled Feet, they're all bad. They're all really bad abilities. I hate Kenai. I hate that. We are going to keep Kenai. I want all Pokemon to have 3 abilities. So instead, I want to give Pidgeot access to its Mega ability, since this is a meta without Megas, being No Guard. And also, instead of Tangled Feet, I'd like to give Pidgeot Aerialite. As far as the moves go that I want to give Pidgeot, now that it's a special attacker, I'd really like to give it Hyper Voice, and I'd really like to give it Boom Burst, as well as Extreme Speed. Now you might be thinking, oh, Aerialite Boom Burst, Aerialite Extreme Speed, Aerialite Hyper Voice. Those are probably too strong, but coming off of base 90 special attack and base 70 regular attack, it's not actually that crazy. You think about some of the powerful things in OU now, and I think that Pidgeot, it would carve a niche for itself. I don't think that it would be any sort of viable, especially with, 83 HP, 75 defense, 70 special defense. It's sort of a glass cannon in that retrospect, and Aerialate's a very good ability, and I think it sort of separates it from a lot of the other normal flying types that do what it used to do, except a little bit better, like Braviary, Dodrio, etc. So that is Pidgeot. That is my new and improved Pidgeot. 499 stat total, no guard, Aerialite, special attacker, Hyper Voice, extreme speed, and Boom Burst. So fun. That sounds like a mon I really want to use. And that in mind, we're going to move on to the next Route 1 normal type. So next up is Raticate. Now, I think that Guts and Hustle are two totally fine abilities for it. But I want to get rid of Runaway for Strong Jaw as well. So it has 3 different boosting abilities as far as the attack stats go, and it gives it some diversity and mystery as the way it's played. You see Eradicate across the field and you think, oh, is it Guts? And should I click Knockoff? Should I click Willow? If it's Hustle, is he going to miss right now? Strongjaw is probably a bit better than those, but it sort of locks it into a specific set of moves. But either way, it makes Raticate a little more unpredictable as to what it does, which is what I think it needs a lot more. Now, Raticate has a base stat total of 413, which is pretty bad. It's better than Beedrill, it's better than Butterfree, but I think that it needs to be a little bit better. So we talked about its ability change. Now I want to give Raticate 20 points into its attack stat, bringing its attack stat to 101, making it actually pretty respectable. And I also want to buff its defense by 10 points, as well as its speed by 10 more points, putting it at 107 speed tier, which is pretty fast. Raticate, totally glass cannon. The whole logic is to buff Pokemon their strength. So Raticate, it's a very strong, it's a regular attacker. It's considered to be pretty fast, but it's not enough. So in order to buff it, you need to make it stronger and you need to make it faster. As far as coverage goes for Raticate, I want to give it the Fang moves. This is something that surprised me. Raticate doesn't have Fire Fang, Ice Fang, and Thunder Fang, which I thought was like what? Are you serious? Like, this normal type who gets access to like Thunderbolt, gets access to Flame Wheel, Ice Beam, it doesn't have these 3 biting moves? What? It doesn't even, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I also want to give it access to Seed Bomb and Gunk Shot. And this rounds out Raticate's coverage pretty nicely. 3 different boosting moves lets it potentially, surprise an opponent. It might be Guts, it might be Hustle, it might be Strong Jaw, it might be running all 3 Fangs and then Hyper Fang. That's, the unpredictability lends to Raticate's playstyle, and putting it in the speed tier of 107 makes it be able to go fast. It could even run a Scarf. It could be, it could be a Scarf, Strong Jaw, Revenge Killer, And I think that sort of carves a bigger niche for Raticate, since it's always been very, very bad. And, the whole point is to make these bad Pokemon, like, a little bit better. And if you're thinking, oh, well, this is busted, it's probably not busted. It just probably isn't, because there's things out there, 101 base attack and 107 speed, just because it's on Eradicate doesn't mean that it's busted. You look at, like, Infernape or, like, I don't even, like, any Mega Evolution or anything like that. You look at Metacham. Oh my god, Metacham, Scarf Metacham? Don't even. So after Raticate and this is the last one for the day, is Alolan Raticate. Now, Alolan Raticate, yes, I'm doing the Alolan forms now in Generation 1. Yeah, that sort of makes Generation 1, like, really, really expansive as far as the number of buffs I've had to give things and go through and whatever. But I thought it makes more sense to do it this way. Now, Alolan Raticate, it's bad, obviously. Regular Raticate's bad. Alolan Raticate is arguably even worse. Dark Normal is actually a pretty decent offensive typing, but I think that we can separate Alolan Raticate a little bit more from regular Raticate. If regular Raticate is a fast, revenge killer, or, is going to poke holes in teams, Alolan Raticate, being as thick as he is, needs to sort of differentiate himself there. So I want to make Alolan Raticate even bulkier than it is now, which it's not very bulky. but I want to separate the role from regular Raticate. So I want to put 30... Wait, hold on. There's a lot of data on the screen at once. It's hard for me to sort of keep track of it, but... So I want to put 25 into its defense and 15 into its special defense, as well as give it access to the same coverage moves that Raticate gets now. Now, this puts Alolan Raticate at 75, 95, 95, which is actually decently respectable. Obviously, you're weak to Bug. You're 4 times weak to Fighting. But, you know, you could take a Ghost-type hit. You could take a Dark-type hit. You're immune to Psychic. You know, that sort... Or immune to Ghost, too. But, you know, you can come in on certain threats and be able to threaten them out. You know, it's fatter. It needs something a little bit more thematic. So Gluttony, I think, is fine. I think it's not a wonderful ability, but I think it works. Thick Fat, very, very good ability. You know, this makes Raticate, with 75, 95, this makes Raticate able to switch in on, like, Ice types, offensive Ice types, offensive Fire types, you know, things that don't have, you know, Fighting type coverage, that sort of thing. But instead of Hustle, you know, because we want to separate Alolan Raticate a little bit more, I want to give it Cheek Pouch. Now, what does Cheek Pouch do? I have to Google it myself because I'm pretty sure Cheek Pouch means that they restore... Yeah, when they eat a berry, it restores a third of its maximum health, rounded down in addition to the berry's effect. And on top of this, I want to give it Stuff Cheeks, which Stuff Cheeks is a move that I believe is exclusive to Greedent right now. Basically, you eat a berry and you boost your physical defense by 2, as well as having the effect of that berry. So Stuff Cheeks with Cheek Pouch, you know, it is sort of Greedent. It's a little faster Greedent with a Dark typing, and it's able to boost its defense, become even a little bit fatter, while restoring some of its HP. And as well as that, you know, its base stat total is now 453, which makes it equivalent with regular Raticate. And yeah, I also want to give it all the same coverage moves that Raticate has. So Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang, Seed Bomb, and Gunk Shot. I think that, you know, now this makes Alolan Raticate not crazy broken, but it gives it a little bit more as far as setting up a little bit more of a unique niche. And yeah, it's now sort of much more defensive. You could run a berry on it. If you want, you could run Thick Fat Assault Vest. It still has 71 attack, which is actually like pretty okay. And yeah, so that's going to do it for this round of rebalancing Kanto Pokemon. I was only able to make it through 5. This is also the first time of doing it. I have so much stuff written down, so many changes, so many spreadsheets and that kind of thing. So it's kind of hard to keep up, but I'm sure I will sort of find a rhythm to it as I go along. This time was a little rough. It might be a little more chopped up and whatnot because I have notes, I have the spreadsheets, and I have the actual Smogon thing. So I'm trying to cycle through all of it while also being coherent as far as, you know, what I want from the Pokemon. So if you guys like the idea, one of the main things that I want out of this series is to propagate discussion. So if you think, oh, I don't agree with you. I think that, you know, 107 base speed on Raticate is ridiculous. I think that, you know, it should stay in the depths of PU forever. Then let me know. Tell me in the comments. We'll talk about, you know, what we could do, what you would do to change any of these Pokemon. If you want to, you know, buff Charizard, I opted not to. But if you want to do anything like that, let me know. Ideally, there'll be more people in the comments to sort of talk about it with us, and, you know, we'll just get a discussion going. It's all for fun. None of it's real. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, more stuff like this to come. So a lot more stuff like this to come. I've been working on this for a very, very long time, and it'll only get better and more crazy. This was pretty tame, actually, as far as what we've done to the Mons. So, all right, I'm going to get on out of here. Till next time.